Gwinnett County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
It's at Norris Lake. Somebody has been shot, and they're in dire straits. There's a woman down there screaming. Could you get somebody out here real quick, ma'am?
Okay, they're coming to stop the kid. Gwinnett County 911.
I was in the car asleep and I heard gunshots.
Who's shot?
My boyfriend and his friend.
Is he breathing?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, they're all the way now.
243 on 10-7. Okay, who shot who? Where? Where are they?
Right there on the table, next to the table.
He's making noise.
Buddy, you okay?
We got fire department on the way.
Okay. Did y'all see who shot?
It was two black guys. They ran through the woods right there.
Canine unit en route.
Dog on the ground. SWAT 30 to 210. Picked up a good track up a trail to the house. Run in front, Johnson. Ready? SWAT 30 to 210. Dog alerted on the back of the house. We've had nothing past that house. We're gonna call the track here.
I'm gonna jump in video call out at the house for you.
We got signal 48.
The 2 males, not alert, not breathing.
Let's start setting up a perimeter.
See a safe set up a crime scene, but identify hold all with it. Set up your chamber.
Homicide code 10, give me 1021.
For homicide detectives, their chance of solving a murder is cut in half if they don't get a lead within the first 48 hours.
Hey. What you got? This is the crime scene here. Here at the picnic bench, Fremont.
2 people are deceased. Aiden Reynolds.
19-year-old Aiden Reynolds was born in Cartersville, Georgia. He worked as a delivery driver and was an aspiring musician. He leaves behind his mother, father, and a younger sister.
The other guy is John Pendrick.
17-year-old John Pendrick was Aiden's best friend. Born 260 miles away in Villa Rica, Georgia, John recently started a job as an oil technician. He loved skateboarding, motorcycling, and camping. He leaves behind his mother, stepfather, and 3 siblings.
I'm gonna see if there's anything crazy about the scene. Okay. Hey.
Hey.
He's got 1 through the side and 2 in the back.
John was shot in the arm, chest, back, and torso.
I think when he fell, he must have fell into the table. I think this guy tried to run.
They say where he got shot?
He got shot in the back.
Aiden was shot once in the chest, once under the arm, and 3 times in the back.
They never saw it coming.
Are these all shell casings?
Yeah.
9mm.
CSI locates 13 9mm casings on and around the table.
All those casings are pretty tight.
It could be one shooter. I mean, you can do that with 1 magazine.
Yeah.
This phone is all beat up.
John and Aiden both have a cell phone lying next to them.
We put those in airplane mode.
Yeah.
Stop any kind of deletion.
Inside John's waistband,
Fake gun.
Yeah. It looks like a BB gun or a plastic gun.
His girlfriend's in the back of his car.
John's girlfriend, Kayla, who called 911, is waiting to speak with detectives.
She said she was in the car when she heard shots.
Hey, Kayla. I'm Detective Pearson. This is Detective Araya. Kayla, I'm very sorry this happened. How tight are Aiden and John?
They were really tight, like all three of us.
Did you already talk to John's family?
I talked to his sister.
So you did tell her what happened?
Yeah.
So can you tell me what happened today? What you guys were doing?
Dude wanted $400 worth of tree.
She says John and Aiden came to the park to sell some marijuana.
Do you know the guy's name?
There was no name or anything.
Okay. So how did Aiden get in contact with this guy?
Instagram.
Okay. Do you know this Instagram handle?
Mm-hmm. Aiden was texting me.
Who brought it up to meet down here? Aiden?
No, well, no, dude did. So we got in the car and just came over here. All I remember is them getting out the car. As soon as I got out the car, I like completely just dozed off.
Okay.
And then, the gunshots is what woke me up. I didn't see the gun being pulled. Only thing I saw was them running off.
She says she saw two men running away.
Okay. Can you describe them?
They were in all black.
What, do you know the race?
I would say black.
Have you guys hung out here before? So
yeah,
you knew the
we hang out
area?
here all the time.
And I believe you said the dude named this as the spot to meet the suspects. Quite a coincidence, you know what I'm saying? Is there anything that you're not telling me that you think I should know?
Mm-mm.
Okay. We'll get you out of here in just a few minutes, all right?
You tell me anything?
Yes. Looks like it's gonna be a drug rip.
We went over here and checked this residence. The K9 lost the track. The suspects could have ran to that location because it was an open gate. When we started knocking, the light went off as we were there.
No one would answer the door after repeated attempts to make contact.
We just probably need to do some due diligence to try to figure out who's living in that house.
Okay.
Homeowner right here has got video.
Patrol finds a nearby home with security cameras pointing at the park.
There's a cable across the road. The camera's recorded, but they don't have the internet to pull the footage from it.
Detectives will have to wait until their internet is restored to download the video.
If we can get the suspects walking to or from, that'll definitely help. She said the suspect's idea was to be here at this park. You don't know this park. Unless you live here, I feel like they knew these guys.
So we're pretty sure that there was direct conversation between these guys and the suspect.
Yes. If we can get into Aiden's phone, it's on his Instagram and possibly on his phone call log.
So we can get that phone done.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back up to headquarters. How are you guys?
What's up?
You got into the phone?
Forensics is able to gain access to John's phone,
Charger port is jacked up.
but Aiden's fails to download.
A partial part of the call log, you can't even see any of that.
They will need to repair the phone before they can retrieve any data.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Aiden was talking to him on Instagram, so I'm gonna do the Instagram court order. This is John's phone. So Aiden texted John around 11:30. He says, what if I was thinking about robbing him? So that's gonna be an hour before the homicide. If that was the case, the people that he tried to rob obviously wanted to have a different way about it. Kayla did not mention any of that. I'm gonna try to go at Kayla again. I just think she's holding back on something. Hey, how are you? If you want to have a seat, I'll lay out everything for you. You're my star witness, okay? You knew everything up until what happened, and you saw everything after. So I want to go back over with you, tell me everything you know, okay?
Aiden literally called John and he was like, I have a play for us.
I do believe John and Aiden probably knew them. So you have no idea who could have been involved with this?
They either want revenge or they just want that thing. Aiden ended up taking this money from this girl a couple months ago. He was trying to sell her weed and just took off all her money.
Out of how much money?
$90.
Do you know her?
No. I mean, I know her, but I don't know her. Her name was like...
Can you give me your address?
Yeah.
Kayla, we're gonna do whatever we can to figure out who did this. All right?
All right.
All right, thanks for talking to us, Caleb.
Well, thank y'all.
It could be a retaliation against something that Aiden did a couple months ago where he kind of stiffed somebody on some money. I mean, it could be definitely be a good lead. I'm gonna go back down to Norris Lake.
Pearson heads out to speak with a young woman Aiden allegedly robbed.
That house right there is gonna be where the K-9 unit's tracked to. I don't know if it's gonna be the suspect house. The report said that the dog alerted near or around the house. That really doesn't give me any probable cause to get into the house right now, but that's a house of interest a quarter mile from the shooting. It's not far.
Looks like somebody's home. Female on the front porch.
Oh, good. Hey, how are you guys? My name's Detective Pearson. This is Investigator Stevens. Did you guys hear about what happened a couple days ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I heard your name from Kayla.
Kayla? Yeah, Kayla, John's girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what Kayla said a couple months ago, Aiden ripped you off.
No, I never got weed from Aiden. I've never got weed from Aiden.
Kayla told me that you paid Aiden or somewhat, and then he just ran off with your money. That never happened?
I just heard, I know Aiden has been running off on people,
Okay.
but I promise you, it was not me, nobody I know, nobody close to me, nothing. Aiden just passed away, so of course I would tell y'all if he ripped me off.
Can you think of anything else that you think we should know?
No. But I want to help y'all find these boys that murdered them, because we don't need this going around in Norris Lake.
All right, thank you. Take care of yourself.
You too.
I'm nowhere different now than I was 20 minutes ago. Aiden's phone was going to be the gold mine for the evidence, but we can't get into it right now. I have a feeling I'm not going to get any information unless it's from a court order or a search warrant, which is unfortunate because that's going to take some time. The longer we go, obviously, the more opportunity is for these guys to scatter, destroy evidence, or get tipped off.
4 days later,
I got the video.
the video from the home next to the park comes in.
This is the parking lot on the other side of the park. It's motion activated, so when you'll see it, it'll come up and then it'll skip over to a different time. Looks like Aiden's car. And it's 12:04 a.m. Looks like they're on their phones right here. 12:13 a.m. I think they're communicating with somebody with the headlights. 12:25 a.m. That's Aiden, and that's John. John has a backpack on, which was taken because that was gone. You can see someone right here. So this is going to be one or the suspect in the park waiting on them. This is the last video of John Aiden alive. This is probably the best evidence that I've got so far. So right now I'm just gonna wait on those court orders and see what else I can get.
"13 days since Aiden and John were murdered.
Forensic Lab is able to finally get into Aiden's phone. From what Kayla said on the night, Aiden was talking to the suspect on Instagram. Let's see. Be the conversation right here. They're talking about how much marijuana and 56 grams. They're talking about $400. He's talking to the Pop Shots EJ. 11:48, the suspect says Sunset. Aiden texted him at 12:05 a.m. He's saying, "I'm here." That's right when they arrived. And then at 12:25 a.m., the suspect texted here. See someone walking right there? The exact time the suspect says here on the messages. The video mirrors the messages, so Pop Shots EJ is going to be one of the suspects that killed John and Aiden. That's definitely huge. This is a photo from Aiden's phone. Pop Shots EJ _ That's going to be the Instagram profile that was talking to Aiden.
She was a nice break. It's something to work with now.
I'll check. The suspect's mutual friend. Let's see. His profile's been deleted. I just find that really suspicious. Northlake is a small community, and he looks to be around the same age as the girl we talked to last week. She might know him, or she might know of him. I don't have anything to go on, so we kind of have to talk to her. Right here. How you doing? I have something I wanted to show you. We got from the victim's phone. That's the Instagram that was messaging Aiden. Who is that?
That's EJ.
Who's EJ?
That's not his real name, but I don't know nothing else about him.
Well, you know something because your mouth dropped when you saw his picture.
Okay.
We met him at the lake.
She says she and a friend met EJ at Norris Lake, a community beach near the park.
He asked my best friend, can I get your number? She's like, nah, I'll give you my Instagram. This is the only thing that happened with EJ.
All right, well, I guess we're gonna go up and talk to your friend. Can you give me her address?
Yes.
All right, we appreciate your time. She lives right down the street. Here we go. My name's Detective Pearson. This is Investigator Stevens. We're with the Gwinnett County Police Department.
I'm not nervous.
Don't be nervous. You're not in trouble. Do you know who that is?
EJ.
EJ.
I met him at the lake.
Do you know anything about EJ?
I did his hair before.
So did he message you on Instagram?
We was calling. I'm calling.
May I see the calls and stuff? So is this him? When are you gonna start on my hair?
Yeah.
That was 2 weeks ago. So according to this, you went to his house.
So you got a pretty good idea of where his house is at.
It's not his house.
What schools did EJ go to?
I don't know if he used or give what.
She says EJ attends a local high school for troubled youth.
He did murder 2 boys, and us getting an address of where you did his hair a week before the murder is gonna be big for us.
I know where he's at on the answer.
What if we drove by in his Durango, the blacked out windows?
Okay.
I'm just gonna wait here, and then you guys are gonna go with him in that car.
Minutes later,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
As soon as we got over there, she was like, take a right. I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, you're gonna have to speed up a little bit because it's really close on this side. And then I'm like,
Was that yellow house with the fence?
Picked up a good track up a trail to a house. Dog got located on the back of the house.
The suspects could have ran to that location.
she's like, I'm certain.
I want to get into that house. This is a big lead for us. They drove right by that same house the canines tracked to. There it is. Now that I have a house, I want to get to it, but we have to be safe about it and kind of brief about it before we just go in there and start kicking the door in. Because they did murder 2 people. She also said that EJ went to either give east or give west. I think it's definitely going to get us close to whoever EJ is. So now I'm just a little anxious. I'm not going to sleep at all tonight. Hey, it's Detective Pearson. Gwinnett County. How are you?
Pearson reaches out to the Gives School resource officer.
So I'm working at the double homicide in Norris Lake. The suspect's, his Instagram name was popshots_EJ, and a couple kids in the neighborhood knew that profile and said that that was EJ. Can you figure out who that student is? Okay, cool. Thanks, man. I would like to think there wouldn't be too many kids nicknamed EJ. I just gotta wait for a little bit and see if he can track down that name. Hey, Hales. So it's Lequan Leroy Dempsey. And the address, okay.
All right. I appreciate it, dude. Thanks. He asked around all the teachers, and they know a kid that goes there by the nickname EJ. His name's Laquan Dempsey. He just turned 16. Sounds like that's going to be my shooter.
The text message chain isn't enough for an arrest warrant. I still need to put him there.
Pearson will submit a search warrant for Laquan's cell phone records.
He doesn't have an address in North Lake, but that doesn't mean he's not friends with people on the address that K9 tracked to.
So what if we went out to the house and just kind of did a knock and talk, turning it into a lock it down?
Police department. Hey.
How's it going?
Can I talk to you for a second? You heard about the murders, right? You lived here a while, right?
No.
You didn't hear about the murders across the street? 2 boys were killed 2 weeks ago?
No.
Okay. Is EJ here?
Who?
Laquan.
Laquan?
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not here.
Where's he?
Oh, yeah.
I know he had his hair done here a couple weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
She says Laquan is a friend of her brother.
I need to talk to your brother and Laquan.
Okay.
Can I come inside?
No.
No? I think we could do the search warrant now.
Lock it down.
I'll go get it right now.
You got the search warrant.
There's gonna be a black backpack. I don't know if it's still here. The victim had 2 ounces of marijuana in it, and they took it after they shot him. 9mm handgun. There's nothing. We'll just talk right here.
Okay.
I'm telling you, the shooters ran to this house. K9 tracked to this house, and particularly they tracked into this yard, okay? Do you want to talk to me?
About what?
Now's not the time to mess with me. This isn't going away.
I know it's not.
I will not stop until I figure out who the 2 people were that met John and Aiden.
Can I talk to you in the shade? I think I'll be more comfortable.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so Quan, he got robbed by a white boy with some weed. This was the end of June.
Did he tell you who?
No.
So, are you telling me this because you think it's linked to the shooting?
Absolutely.
What do you know about the shooting?
I didn't know nothing about it.
I know you know something.
I told you what happened, what Quan told me.
Yeah, but that was what happened in June. I need to know what happened 2 weeks ago. Was Quan the one that tried to buy weed from these guys again and they tried to rob Quan?
No.
You don't know? All right. She was telling me a story that Laquan had told her. He was trying to buy some marijuana from a white kid, and that person robbed him. Sounds like this could be like payback.
The next day,
Detective Pearson, go ahead, please.
an attorney for the young man who lives in the house that was searched calls Pearson.
There's a suspect's EJ. We had a couple people in the neighborhood point out that address as the one that EJ was staying at when he's in the neighborhood. And that's why we were out at the house. I just wanted to kind of talk to him about EJ. All right, sir. All right, you too, bud. All right. He's like, do you have any warrants? I don't have any warrants. I wanted to talk to him about a suspect we felt named EJ. I heard he was friends with him. He's like, well, I don't want to come up and talk if he's going to be roped into this felony murder thing. To give school, providing me with a phone number for Claude's grandma. I want to get a statement from them. I don't really have any other avenues right now.
Two days later,
I talked to Laquan's grandma about talking to Laquan. She said she's going to bring him up today. We're going to talk to him about that conversation with him and the victim. We're going to try to figure out what his story is about all this stuff. Ma'am, if you'd like to have a few right there, wall right here, please. I know we spoke on the phone briefly, and I know you guys already kind of know why we're here talking. It was about the murders down in Norris Lake.
I did Google it. It was 2 teenagers.
One of the things that I did do after the homicide was I got into one of the victims' phone, which was Aiden. And there was an Instagram conversation between your Instagram account and the victims leading up to the homicide.
Like, we should Instagrams.
he says he shares his Instagram account with the friend who lives at the house that K9 tracked to.
So I've already sent Instagram a preservation request for Pop Shots EJ. It tells me what phone number was used to communicate.
Okay. Yeah, so even if you were to share it with a friend or anything like that, it's going to show who specifically was using it and at what exact time. Okay. Right, so we're going to know 100%.
Can I see what's the conversation between...
And I can show it to you, but I don't want it to shut you down because it's conversations between Aiden and the person using this account. They're over buying marijuana, okay? The person using the account says we're going to meet at sunset, and then Aiden and John show up at sunset.
It's not going to be me because I know where I was at.
Where were you?
At home.
At home? Who was at home with you?
It was me, my grandma, and just me.
All I can follow is the stuff that I'm going to get back from people's phone numbers and Instagram accounts. I'm gonna apply for yours. They're going to come back. And if they're different from what you tell me right now, that's going to look really bad for you.
I get what you're saying.
Is there anything else about either you being at the house and them going down to the park, or you being around and not knowing that this was going to happen?
I want to tell y'all like the things that I know, but I'm scared.
I can see it in your mannerisms right now in your face that you want to tell more. So I think you probably know a little bit more about what's going on with that fact.
The first time ever I even heard of it, he was like, if you don't bum home, we basically gonna have some problems.
What was bum home?
Bum home?
Yeah.
Like,
what was that?
You trying to get jumped into blood or not?
He says the friend has been trying to bring him into a gang.
He's like, you my puppy. He's like, I'm about to shame you. It was something that I was heard from. You know, I do know who was at the park. It was him. He was in a stolen car and basically knocked on my back window and picked up my phone.
He says 2 days before the shooting, the friend and another young man showed up at his house asking to borrow his phone.
And I gave him the phone. And he was like, I'm gonna give you a phone back. It's just that I don't got my phone right now because I broke it. I basically believed him and trusted him. And I was like, here you go.
So you're saying all these text messages are from using your phone?
Yeah. the phone. He was like, basically just like destroy their phone.
Did they tell you what happened?
He told me about the other kid going down there and negotiating with him. And then 2 shots went off, he ran down. He ran down there and shot the rest of his clip. They grabbed the backpack and ran.
It's getting kind of late. Has he given you enough?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys spending so much time with us tonight. Basically, he told me to give him his phone, which it's ridiculous, but
can it be an intimidation factor for the gang initiation? Is he high enough to place this kid in fear?
He was training Laquan as his little pup. That's what he called him.
This guy has as much control over him. I could see him saying, give me your phone, and there's no questions asked. His kid's only 16 years old, so, I mean, he's still trying to figure out how to survive.
Could still not be telling the truth. I don't know.
So how can you back up his story? Because now location data for his cell phone is going to put him in North Lake.
His Instagram won't matter.
Just have to wait for his call detail records and see where we go from there.
Ten days later.
This is the phone records I got for Laquan. So here's the coordinates for the cell tower that he used. North Lake. The 19th here, he called the 916 number. And then again on the 20th, the afternoon before the homicides. And then right here, the 21st, 11:30 in the morning, 11 hours after the homicide, he called again.
See if I can figure out who it is.
That 916 number is to his grandmother.
Really?
Yes. And you can scroll down, and each one of these, he's in North Lake. In the interview Laquan was talking about, his friend came up, picked up his phone on the 19th, and he didn't get back until the 24th. It's his friend's not talking to his grandma. Laquan is going to be involved. I know he was in North Lake. I know it was his Instagram, and I know it was his phone talking to the victim. Now that we know that what he's telling me in the interview is false, I can confront him with that. Hopefully he'll come off of it and tell me he was there. Detective Pearson, Gwinnett Police, how are you?
Pearson calls Laquan's grandmother.
Okay.
She says Laquan's mother retained representation for her son.
I don't believe he was by himself, but if that's y'all's decision, I won't reach out to him anymore. I'll probably end up getting warrants for Laquan. I'm telling you that straight up. All right, bye-bye. I have more than enough evidence to charge Laquan. At this point, there's nothing else I can do. Just get him into custody and we'll go from there.
Five days later.
They took Laquan into custody at his grandmother's house. I wish I could have talked to Laquan again. I wish I could have talked to his friend to get some more information. I do believe he's involved, but I don't know to what extent. But I do believe Laquan is the main suspect. I did speak with Aiden and John's families. They were appreciative of everything we did for them. It's just a tragic incident with 2 teenagers that are now gone.
Three years after John and Aiden were killed.
Hi.
Hey. Are you wearing this shirt?
I wore John and Aiden, and she wore Aiden. John and Aiden. Once they met, from that day on, they were inseparable. Yeah. Remember when John and Aiden were saying that they were going to get face tattoos?
Oh my gosh.
I think they just would say stuff just to give us a hard time. Let's see what Mom will do.
Oh, I know. I could hear the two of them just masterminding that too.
Crazy boys.
They were good kids. They really were. This time of year is always hard, you know. I try to forget that day, like change my memories, my thought pattern to like something good.
I'm glad that they were together though.
As much as I hate it.
Bound forever.
So are we.
Yes, we are. We are definitely bound by the blood of our sons.
I always have somebody that knows exactly where I'm at because you're right there too.
I love you, and it was good to see you.
Okay, I love you too.
I look for signs from Aiden to help me cope. A song that comes on the radio, finding dimes and pennies, that's kisses and hugs from heaven. I look for him in my dreams.
He just brought so much joy and fun. The world's just quiet now. I just would give anything to just hear his voice.
I feel like the day he died, I died too. I lost all my joy. I lost all my happiness. I didn't even know how to laugh anymore.
You gotta really thankful for every minute, every day that you get with your kids. I miss you. Love you, John John.
6 grams of marijuana for $400. The suspect had instructed Aiden to meet at the park at a specific time. Crucially, the timeline and the messages aligned perfectly with the security. Camera footage retrieved from the neighborhood home at 12:04 in the morning. Aiden's vehicle was seen entering the parking lot. By 12:25, a figure could be seen waiting in the park, matching the exact moment the suspect sent a message reading that they had arrived. This visual evidence confirmed that the user of the Instagram account was directly linked to the incident. The account profile featured a photograph of a young man. Given the small, tightly knit nature of the local community, Detective Pearson suspected that the young woman he had spoken to earlier might recognize him. He returned to her residence and showed her the image. Her reaction was immediate. She recognized the individual as EJ, though she did not know his legal name. She recalled that her close friend had met him at a nearby lake and had exchanged social media information with him. The detectives proceeded to the friend's residence. The young woman confirmed she knew EJ and had recently visited his home to style his hair. She agreed to guide the detectives to the location. As they drove through the neighborhood, she pointed out a yellow house with a fence. It was the exact residence where the canine unit had tracked the scent on the night of the tragedy. With the location identified, the detectives needed to determine EJ's true identity. They contacted a school resource officer at a local educational center. The officer recognized the nickname and the social media handle, identifying the 16-year-old suspect as Laquan Leroy Dempsey. To build a stronger case, Detective Pearson obtained a search warrant for the residence and sought cell phone records to establish Laquan's location on the night of the incident. While awaiting the data, investigators conducted a Knock and talk at the Yellow House. A resident confirmed that Laquan was a friend of her brother, but was not present at the time. She agreed to speak with Detective Pearson in the shade outside. During their conversation, she mentioned that Laquan had claimed he was robbed by a young man during a transaction in June. She believed this prior incident might have motivated the subsequent confrontation at the park. A few days later, an attorney representing the resident's brother contacted Detective Pearson, wanting to ensure his client was not improperly implicated in the serious charges. Meanwhile, the school resource officer provided contact information for Laquan's grandmother. Detective Pearson reached out to her, and she agreed to bring the teenager to the police station for an interview. Laquan arrived accompanied by his grandmother. Detective Pearson explained the nature of the investigation and presented the evidence of the Instagram conversation. Laquan initially claimed that he shared the social media account with a friend from the Yellow House, suggesting someone else might have used his identity. Detective Pearson cautioned him, explaining that incoming records would reveal the specific device and location used during the exchange. He encouraged the teenager to tell the truth. Visibly anxious, Laquan began to share more details. He described an environment of peer pressure and intimidation, claiming an older associate had been trying to initiate him into a local group. Laquan asserted that 2 days prior to the incident, this associate and another individual had taken his telephone. He claimed they used his device to coordinate the meeting at the park, later returning to tell him that a struggle had occurred, shots had been fired, and a backpack had been taken. While the story attempted to distance Laquan from the physical act of violence, the subsequent cell phone tower records painted a different picture. The data showed that Laquan's phone had connected to towers near the park during the exact hours of the incident. Furthermore, the records showed multiple calls to his grandmother's phone from that location during the days surrounding the tragedy, suggesting he remained in possession of his device. When Detective Pearson attempted to schedule a follow-up interview to present these findings, he learned that Laquan's family had retained legal counsel, ending direct communication. Armed with the circumstantial and digital evidence, investigators obtained arrest warrants for felony murder. 5 days later, Laquan was taken into custody without incident at his grandmother's residence. 3 years after the tragic loss of Aiden and John, their families remained bound by shared grief and mutual support. In a quiet meeting, the mothers reflected on the vibrant lives of their sons, finding comfort in their memories and the enduring bond they shared. The investigation had reached its conclusion, leaving a sober reminder of the devastating consequences of youthful decisions driven by illicit transactions and unresolved conflicts. Our second narrative takes us to the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a different kind of mystery unfolded on the west side of town. On a late afternoon, a resident searching for her lost cat's collar in a neighbor's backyard made a horrifying discovery. Among the debris of a detached garage that had burned down months earlier, she discovered what appeared to be human skeletal remains. Patrol officers arrived quickly, securing the area and confirming the presence of a human jawbone. Given the nature of the find, they immediately contacted the Homicide Division and requested the assistance of a forensic anthropologist. Detective Mark Kennedy and Detective Ward arrived at the scene as evening fell. 5 months prior, in the middle of September, the property's detached garage had been consumed by a significant fire. The local fire department had extinguished the flames, but due to the immense amount of debris and storage inside the structure, the remains had gone unnoticed at the time. Dr. Angela Berg, the forensic anthropologist, examined the remains in situ. She noted significant fractures to the skull, suggesting blunt force trauma or a potential gunshot wound, rather than damage caused solely by the intense heat of the fire. The positioning of the body, tucked deep under the collapsed structure, suggested an intentional effort to conceal the individual. The detectives identified the owner of the property and attempted to contact him. When reached by phone, the homeowner appeared highly evasive, claiming he was out of town and refusing to meet with investigators without more information. He did, however, ask a startling question. He inquired if the remains belonged to a man named Steve Wilkins, who had been renting the garage apartment and had not been seen since the fire. This admission provided investigators with their first significant lead. Steve Wilkins was a 55-year-old father of 4 who had lived in the area for over 20 years, known for his love of poetry and his volunteer work with a local community support group. He had fallen on difficult times and had been staying in the garage for approximately 3 years. The homeowner eventually agreed to come to the police station for an interview. He explained that on the night of the fire, neighbors had alerted him to the flames at 4 a.m. He claimed he had not seen Steve since the previous evening. He also mentioned that earlier that afternoon, 2 unidentified men had visited Steve, and Steve had indicated they were unhappy with him. The homeowner claimed he assumed Steve had simply fled the area to escape trouble, which was why he had never reported him missing. The detectives found the homeowner's explanation highly unusual, but they focused their attention on identifying the suspects. The next morning, as the team carefully exhumed the remains, they recovered a single 9mm shell casing from the debris. Dr. Berg's preliminary examination confirmed a gunshot wound at the base of the skull, officially designating the case as a homicide. A critical breakthrough occurred when a patrol officer brought in a female resident from the West Side who wished to share information. She revealed that a rumor had been circulating prior to the fire. It was alleged that Steve had drugged a young woman who was the former girlfriend of a local resident named Tad Kleiner, known on the streets as Taboo. According to the witness, Tad had become furious upon hearing this rumor. On the night of the fire, Tad and an associate named Mikey Brummett Jr., had reportedly gone to confront Steve. The witness claimed Tad later bragged about severely beating Steve. She further alleged that Michael Brummett had been brought in to clean up the scene and had subsequently set the garage on fire to destroy the evidence. The detectives researched the backgrounds of the suspects. Tad Kleiner was a 36-year-old with a history of local offenses. Michael Brummett, 39, was already in custody serving a sentence on an unrelated firearms charge, having been arrested months after the fire with both a 9mm handgun and a revolver. Investigators located a second witness who confirmed the details of the confrontation. This witness identified a third individual, 26-year-old Devin Scrivener, who had also been present during the incident and had reportedly sustained an injury to his hand during the struggle, with the remains positively identified as those of Steve Wilkins through a comparison of medical records. The detectives set out to locate Devin Scrivener, viewing him as the potential weak link in the group. After a brief search, they located him at a residence on the west side and took him into custody. In the interview room, Devin initially appeared hesitant, but eventually provided a detailed account of the fateful night. He claimed Tad had recruited him and Michael Brummett to confront Steve regarding the rumors. Devin described how the conversation quickly turned violent when Tad assaulted Steve without warning. Devin claimed he had attempted to intervene, urging Tad to stop the violence. However, as they prepared to leave, Michael Brummett allegedly produced a handgun and fired a single shot, killing Steve. Devin admitted to inflicting a minor injury during the initial struggle, but insisted he had no part in the shooting or the subsequent fire. He confessed he had been too terrified to contact the police. Based on his admission of involvement, Devin was arrested and charged. 2 days later, the warrants team located Tad Kleiner and brought him in for questioning. Tad maintained a defiant posture, denying any involvement in the murder or the fire. However, he did admit to having confronted Steve in the past regarding his behavior toward local women, acknowledging that he had threatened him. When confronted with the statements of his associates, placing him at the scene on the night of the murder, Tad continued to deny the allegations. He was subsequently booked into the county jail on charges of first-degree murder. Investigators also initiated the process to charge Michael Brummett, who remained in state custody. To complete their understanding of the motive, detectives located Tad's former girlfriend. When interviewed, she expressed complete confusion regarding the allegations. She stated she did not know Steve Wilkins, had never met him, and had never been harmed or drugged by anyone. It became clear to the detectives that a tragic, unfounded rumor had escalated into an act of senseless violence. Steve Wilkins had lost his life over a misunderstanding, a sobering reminder of the dangers of vigilante justice and the devastating impact of unchecked rumors within a community. Our final narrative brings us to the coastal city of North Charleston, South Carolina. In the early morning hours, a resident on Rolling Fork Road was awakened by the sound of someone desperately pounding on her windows and doors, crying out for assistance. An officer arrived on the scene within minutes, discovering a young man lying beneath a stairwell on the first floor of an apartment building. He had suffered a severe gunshot wound to his upper thigh, and had lost a significant amount of blood. Despite the efforts of first responders, the young man's pulse faded and he passed away at the scene. Detective Reams and his team took charge of the investigation. The victim had no identification on his person, but he bore distinct tattoos. A trail of blood led from the stairwell, past a set of dumpsters, and toward a nearby guardrail, where investigators located a 9mm ammunition magazine. No firearm was found at the scene, but a locked mobile telephone was recovered near the blood trail. Neighbors reported hearing no gunshots, leading detectives to suspect the shooting may have occurred inside a vehicle parked near the entrance. The apartment complex was served by a single entry and exit point, which was monitored by a city-managed security camera. Through fingerprint analysis, the coroner identified the victim as 21-year-old Aurelius Siren Nelson Jr., known to his friends as C. He was a resident of James Island and the father of a young son. Detectives focused their efforts on retrieving video footage from the security cameras overlooking the parking lot. They also met with a young woman who identified herself as Aurelius's girlfriend. She explained they had been staying at a nearby hotel. She recalled that Aurelius had woken up in the middle of the night and left the room without explanation, walking toward the residential area. A review of the security footage revealed a white or silver sedan, possibly an Infiniti, exiting the complex at high speed shortly before the 911 call was placed. Investigators believed this vehicle was directly involved in the incident. The investigation took an unexpected turn when patrol officers stopped a vehicle containing 3 individuals, one of whom had a jacket draped over his head. This individual claimed he had been kidnapped and assaulted by the other 2 occupants, who were associates of Aurelius. According to his account, Aurelius's friends believed he had set up the victim to be harmed. The individual explained that on the night of the shooting, Aurelius had visited him and expressed an intention to rob a local acquaintance. He provided detectives with the name of the individual Aurelius had targeted, and database search revealed that the targeted individual owned a white 2010 Infiniti, matching the vehicle seen in the security footage. Phone records also established that Aurelius had been in continuous communication with this individual in the minutes leading up to the encounter. Detectives located the owner's girlfriend, who agreed to cooperate. She confirmed that her boyfriend drove a white Infiniti and had arrived at her residence early on the morning of the incident, appearing normal. While she was at the police station, investigators used a license plate reader to locate the white Infiniti. Officers conducted a high-risk traffic stop, detaining the driver without incident. The driver was brought to the department for questioning. Detective Sanders took over the interview, maintaining a professional and non-confrontational approach. The driver initially declined to make a statement without legal representation. While the driver remained in holding, investigators executed a search warrant on the white Infiniti. Although the interior appeared to have been recently cleaned, application of a chemical agent revealed a large volume of blood soaked deep into the driver's seat cushion. A circular defect in the driver's side door also suggested a projectile had struck the interior. Confronted with the physical evidence of the blood in his vehicle, the driver chose to share his version of events. He explained that Aurelius had contacted him requesting a meeting. Once inside the vehicle, Aurelius had brandished a firearm and declared a robbery. A desperate struggle ensued within the moving vehicle as the driver fought to control the weapon. During the struggle, the firearm discharged twice. The driver asserted that Aurelius accidentally shot himself in the thigh during the tussle. Aurelius then exited the vehicle, and the driver, panicked and fearing for his life, fled the scene, later discarding the firearm. The physical evidence, including the trajectory of the bullet hole in the door and the nature of the wound, aligned with the driver's account of a struggle over the weapon. Realizing the shooting was an act of self-defense during an attempted robbery, detectives made the decision not to pursue murder charges. However, because the driver had fled the scene, failed to report the incident, and actively attempted to destroy evidence by cleaning the blood from his vehicle, he was charged with misprision of a felony. The resolution of the case brought a somber conclusion to the event. Aurelius Siren Nelson Jr. had made a tragic decision that cost him his life, leaving a family to mourn a preventable loss. The investigation highlighted the critical role of scientific evidence and objective analysis in ensuring that the truth is revealed and that justice is measured with fairness. In the quiet hours after midnight, when the rest of the world has surrendered to slumber, the work of those who seek justice begins. It is a world of sharp contrasts where the sudden violence of a single moment can ripple across years, leaving behind a quiet devastation that words can scarcely capture. Across different towns, in neighborhoods separated by hundreds of miles, dedicated investigators face the same formidable clock, knowing that the passage of time is the greatest enemy of the truth. In Gwinnett County, Georgia, the darkness of the night was broken by the frantic sound of a telephone ringing in the dispatch center. A young woman, her voice trembling with a mixture of confusion and terror, was breathing heavily into the receiver. She had been asleep in the passenger seat of a car parked near a quiet community park. The sudden, violent cadence of gunshots had shattered her rest. When the emergency operator asked her to describe what had occurred, she could only state that she had heard the shots and believed her boyfriend and his close companion had been targeted. Her words were sparse, born of shock, as she looked out into the shadows of the trees and realized that the world she knew had changed in an instant. First responders arrived at the scene, their headlights cutting through the thick night air. The community of Northlake was typically quiet, a place where families lived in peaceful routine. Now, blue and red emergency lights painted the leaves of the surrounding forest in rhythmic, artificial hues. A canine unit was quickly deployed, the handler urging the search dog to catch a scent from the moist earth near the trail. The dog put its nose to the ground, pulling the team along a path that wound through the trees toward a residential street. They tracked the scent to the rear of a nearby house, where the dog alerted, indicating that someone had recently passed by. Beyond that yard, however, the trail grew cold. The officers called off the canine search, marking the residence as a location of interest. At the center of the park, near a wooden picnic table, lay the physical reality of the tragedy. 2 young men were deceased. The first was Aiden Reynolds, a 19-year-old native of Cartersville, Georgia. He was a young man of promise, working as a delivery driver while dedicating his spare time to writing and performing music. He left behind a mother, a father, and a younger sister who looked up to him. Beside him was his closest friend, John Pendrick, who was 17 years old. John had moved to the area from Fullerika, Georgia, and had recently secured a position as an oil technician. He was a teenager who found joy in the simple, active pursuits of youth such as skateboarding, riding motorcycles, and camping in the southern woods. He was mourned by his mother, his stepfather, and 3 siblings. The lead investigators, Detective Pearson and Detective Arina, began their meticulous examination of the scene. The physical evidence spoke of a sudden and relentless attack. John Pendrick had sustained multiple gunshot wounds to his arm, chest, back, and torso. The trajectory suggested he had fallen against the picnic table as he was struck. Aiden Reynolds had also been shot multiple times, with wounds to his chest, under his arm, and 3 times in his back, indicating that he had attempted to run from the gunfire. On the ground around the table, the crime scene investigators located 13 9mm shell casings. The tight grouping of the casings suggested a single shooter using a single magazine, indicating a focused and rapid assault. Beside the victims lay their cell phones, one of which was severely damaged. Detective Pearson instructed that the devices be placed in airplane mode immediately to prevent any remote deletion of data. A search of John's person revealed a realistic replica of a handgun, a plastic BB gun, tucked into his waistband. This detail added a layer of complexity to the incident, suggesting that the meeting may not have been a simple social gathering. Kayla, the young woman who had placed the emergency call, was brought to the police headquarters for a formal interview. She sat in the quiet of the interrogation room, her hands clasped tightly. Detective Pearson spoke to her with gentle empathy, acknowledging the trauma she had just experienced. Under questioning, Kayla explained that Aiden and John had traveled to the park that night to conduct a transaction involving $400 worth of marijuana. She did not know the identity of the buyer, explaining that the contact had been initiated through Aiden's Instagram account. According to Kayla, the buyer had selected the park as the meeting location. She claimed that she had fallen asleep almost immediately after they arrived and was only awakened by the sound of the shots. She recalled seeing 2 figures dressed in black running into the darkness, but she could provide few details regarding their physical descriptions. The detectives recognized a significant coincidence. The park was tucked away, a location unlikely to be known by anyone who did not reside in the immediate area. This suggested that the suspect was either a local resident or someone highly familiar with the neighborhood. Furthermore, the house where the canine unit had lost the scent was located merely a quarter of a mile from the crime scene. In the digital laboratory, forensic technicians attempted to extract data from the victims' phones. While John's phone was accessible, Aiden's phone, which contained the primary correspondence with the suspect, had a damaged charging port and resisted initial download attempts. This created a significant hurdle, as the initial 48 hours of an investigation are critical. While waiting for the technical repairs, Detective Pearson examined the messages retrieved from John's phone. An hour before the shooting, Aiden had sent a text message to John, asking what if he was thinking about robbing the buyer. This single message cast the entire event in a different light. It appeared that the planned transaction was not a routine sale, but rather a potential robbery that had turned fatal when the buyer proved to be armed and prepared. Detective Pearson returned to Kayla, seeking clarification. Confronted with the digital evidence, Kayla admitted that there was more to the story. She revealed that a few months prior, Aiden had taken $90 from a local young woman during a similar transaction, running off with her money without providing the product. Kayla provided the name of this young woman and her general location, suggesting that the shooting might have been an act of retaliation for the previous theft. Pearson traveled to the neighborhood to speak with the young woman Aiden had allegedly defrauded. She was sitting on her front porch when the investigators arrived. She spoke openly, denying any involvement in the shooting. She admitted that she knew of Aiden's reputation for taking money from people, but she emphasized that she had no desire for violence and wished to help the police find those responsible. This avenue of inquiry did not yield a suspect, leaving the detectives dependent once more on the digital evidence locked inside Aiden's damaged phone. 4 days after the double homicide, the investigators received two crucial pieces of information. First, they obtained security camera footage from a residence overlooking the parking lot on the opposite side of the park. Although the camera was motion activated and recorded in fragments, it captured the victim's vehicle arriving at 12:04 in the morning. The video showed Aiden and John looking at their phones, occasionally flashing their headlights, as if signaling someone. At 12:25 in the morning, the footage captured the final moments of the two young men alive, as well as a dark figure waiting in the shadows of the park. John was seen carrying a backpack, which was notably absent when the police discovered his body. The second breakthrough came from the forensic laboratory. Technicians had successfully repaired Aiden's phone and extracted the Instagram messages. The correspondence was with an account named popshots_EJ. The messages detailed a transaction for 56 grams of marijuana in exchange for $400. At 11:48 at night, the suspect had sent a message containing the word sunset. At 12:05 in the morning, Aiden replied that he had arrived. Finally, at 12:25 in the morning, the exact moment the security camera showed the suspect in the park, PopShots_. EJ sent a single word, here. The digital record and the video footage aligned perfectly. To identify the individual behind the Instagram profile, Detective Pearson showed the account image to local youth in the neighborhood. One young resident immediately recognized the picture, identifying the individual as EJ, though she did not know his legal name. She recalled that her friend had met him at Norris Lake and had exchanged Instagram information with him. The detectives located the friend, who was initially nervous but cooperative. She revealed that EJ attended a local educational institution known as the Gibbs School, which was designed for youth requiring specialized behavioral support. She also pointed out a yellow house with a fence where she had recently styled EJ's hair. Pearson realized with a surge of professional focus that this yellow house was the exact residence where the K-9 unit had lost the track on the night of the murders. With the assistance of the school resource officer at the Gibbs School, the investigators identified the student known as EJ. His legal name was Laquan Leroy Dempsey, and he was 16 years old. Despite his youth, the evidence suggested he was deeply involved in the local street culture. Detective Pearson drafted a search warrant for the yellow house. Upon arriving, they encountered a young woman who lived there. She was hesitant to cooperate, but eventually admitted that Laquan was a friend of her brother. She recounted a story that Laquan had been robbed by a white youth during a drug transaction in late June, suggesting that his actions at the park may have been driven by a desire for retribution against those he perceived as predators. A few days later, Laquan's grandmother, wishing to do the right thing, brought the 16-year-old to the police department to speak with the detectives. Laquan sat in the interview room, appearing small and nervous. Detective Pearson explained that they had recovered the Instagram messages between his account and Aiden's phone. Laquan attempted to distance himself from the crime, claiming that he shared his Instagram account with a friend from the Yellow House. He asserted that this friend had taken his phone 2 days prior to the shooting and had used it without his knowledge. Laquan claimed that his friend was trying to initiate him into a gang, using terms like bump home to describe the pressure he felt. He asserted that the friend had taken the phone and returned it days later, telling him that another youth had gone to the park, negotiated with the victims, and that when shots were fired, the friend had run down and shot the rest of his clique before taking their backpack. While the story was complex, Detective Pearson remained skeptical. He obtained the cell phone tower records for Laquan's phone. The data revealed that during the hours surrounding the homicide, the phone was consistently communicating with Laquan's grandmother's number, and the location data placed the device firmly in the Northlake area. It was highly improbable that a friend who had allegedly stolen the phone would spend the night calling Laquan's own grandmother. The digital alibi had crumbled. When Pearson contacted the grandmother to arrange a follow-up interview to Present this evidence, he was informed that the family had retained legal representation and that no further statements would be made, recognizing that the combination of the Instagram records, the security video, the canine track, and the cell phone tower data provided ample probable cause. Detective Pearson secured arrest warrants for Laquan Leroy Dempsey, charging him with felony murder. 5 days later, the youth was taken into custody. 3 years after the tragedy, the mothers of Aiden and John met to support one another. They wore shirts bearing the names of their sons, bound by a shared grief that time could not erase. They spoke of the quietness of the world without their children, of finding comfort in small signs, and of the enduring bond formed through their mutual loss. The investigation had reached its legal conclusion, but the human cost remained a permanent fixture in their lives. In the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a different kind of mystery was unfolding on the west side. The late afternoon sun was beginning to cast long shadows over a quiet residential property on South 54th West Avenue. A neighbor had entered the backyard of a vacant property that had suffered a severe fire. Several months earlier, in September, she was searching for her lost cat's collar when she noticed something unusual amidst the charred timber and collapsed roofing of a detached garage. Upon closer inspection, she realized she was looking at human bones, including a recognizable jawbone. Patrol officers quickly secured the perimeter and summoned homicide detectives Mark Kennedy and Ward to the scene. The structure had been heavily damaged by the fire 5 months prior. The fire department had extinguished the flames at the time, but because the garage had been filled with a vast amount of debris, the remains had gone unnoticed beneath the ash and collapsed roof. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Angela Berg was called to the scene. As the twilight faded, she examined the visible bones, noting that the skull was tucked beneath the structural remains in a manner that appeared highly intentional. She observed fractures on the skull that suggested blunt force trauma prior to the fire, rather than damage caused by thermal expansion or falling debris. She advised that a full excavation would be required at dawn to recover the complete skeleton. The detectives identified the property owner and contacted him by telephone. His behavior was immediately defensive. He claimed to be out of town and refused to meet with investigators without more information. During the conversation, however, he asked if the remains might belong to a man named Steve Wilkins. He explained that Steve had been living in the garage apartment for approximately 3 years and had not been seen since the night of the fire. Steve Wilkins was a 55-year-old father of 4 who had spent his life in various states due to his father's military service. He had resided in Tulsa for over 20 years, working as a baker and volunteering for a local community assistance group. After falling on hard times and separating from his family, he had accepted the property owner's offer to live in the garage. The property owner eventually agreed to come to the police station for an interview. He described Steve as an intelligent, soft-spoken man who read and wrote poetry. He claimed that on the evening of September 14th, hours before the fire, he had seen Steve in the company of two white males who seemed unhappy. The owner claimed he assumed Steve had fled the area after the fire was set by these unknown individuals, which was why he had never reported him missing. The detectives found his lack of concern and his failure to contact the authorities highly suspicious, but they lacked the evidence to hold him. The following morning, the excavation of the garage began. As investigators carefully sifted through the ash, they discovered a single 9mm shell casing corroded by the heat of the fire. Dr. Berg's examination at the medical examiner's office confirmed that the victim had sustained a gunshot wound to the base of the skull. The investigation was now officially a homicide. A critical lead emerged when Patrol Officer Darren Shipley brought a neighborhood resident to the detective division. The woman, despite being ill, felt a moral obligation to share what she had heard. She revealed that a rumor had circulated on the west side that Steve Wilkins had allegedly drugged an ex-girlfriend of a local man named Tad Kleiner, who is known in the area as Taboo. According to the witness, on the night of the fire, Tad Kleiner and a companion named Michael Mikey Brummett Jr. had gone to the garage to confront Steve. She claimed that Tad had later boasted about severely beating Steve, describing the assault in graphic terms. She also stated that Mikey Brummett had been brought in to clean up the scene and had subsequently set the garage on fire, using bleach and accelerants to destroy the evidence. She added that another young man named Devin had also been present and had injured his hand during the incident. The detectives located the witness's boyfriend, who was currently held in the county jail on unrelated matters. He confirmed the account, stating that Mikey Brummett had spoken of fixing Taboo's rookie mistake. He also identified Devin Scrivener as the third individual involved, noting that Devin had been bleeding from his hand on the night of the fire. Michael Brummett was already serving a 5-year sentence on an unrelated firearm conviction, having been arrested months after the fire with both a .38 caliber revolver and a 9mm handgun. This made him a primary suspect as the potential shooter, and plans were made to test his seized weapon against the casing found in the ashes. The search for 26-year-old Devin Scrivener led the detectives to a residence on the west side, where they took him into custody. In the interview room, Devin appeared overwhelmed. Detective Kennedy presented him with the facts, stating that witnesses had placed him at the scene. Devin chose to cooperate. He explained that Tad Kleiner had asked him and Mikey Brummett to accompany him to speak with Steve regarding the allegations involving the young women. Devin claimed that the conversation quickly turned violent when Tad struck Steve without warning. He described a brutal assault carried out by Tad and Mikey. Devin admitted that as Steve attempted to escape from his chair, he panicked and stabbed Steve twice with a knife, injuring his own hand in the process. He then claimed that as he and Tad were preparing to leave, Mikey Brummett produced a handgun and fired a single shot, killing Steve. Devin was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for his participation in the felony. 2 days later, the warrants team located Tad Kleiner and placed him under arrest. During his interview, Tad Kleiner denied any involvement in the murder or the fire. He admitted that he had previously confronted Steve, warning him to stay away from the women in the neighborhood, and acknowledged that Steve seemed intimidated by him. He maintained that he was not present on the night of the fire and had not harmed him. Despite his denials, the consistent statements from multiple witnesses and co-defendants provided sufficient ground to charge Tad Kleiner with first-degree murder. To understand the catalyst for this extreme violence, Detective Kennedy located Tad's ex-girlfriend, the young woman Steve had supposedly harmed. When shown a photograph of Steve Wilkins, she looked at it blankly, stating she had never seen the man in her life. She confirmed she had never been assaulted, harassed, or drugged by anyone matching his description. She explained that rumors often ran wild on the West Side, including completely fabricated stories about her own health. The detectives realized with a sense of grim irony that Steve Wilkins had been murdered based on a baseless neighborhood rumor. There were no police reports, no complaints, and no truth to the allegations that had cost him his life. It was a tragic instance of vigilante violence executed over a falsehood, leaving a family to mourn a father who had died alone in the dark. In North Charleston, South Carolina, the struggle for survival took a different form under the cover of a rainy night. At approximately 1 a.m, a resident on Rolling Fork Road called 911, reporting that an unknown individual was desperately banging on their windows and doors, crying out for assistance. The first responding officer arrived at the apartment complex and discovered a young man collapsed beneath a first-floor stairwell. He was bleeding profusely from a single gunshot wound to his upper thigh, which had severed his femoral artery. Despite the officer's attempts to administer aid, the young man's pulse faded, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Detective Reams and his team took control of the investigation. They discovered a trail of blood leading from a nearby dumpster area to the guardrail of the parking lot. Near the blood, they recovered a 9mm handgun magazine, but no firearm was present. They also located a locked cell phone, which they submitted for immediate forensic analysis. The fingerprint results identified the deceased as 21-year-old Aurelius Siren Nelson Jr., who went by the name of C. He was a resident of James Island and the father of a young son. The detectives reviewed security camera footage from the apartment complex entrance. Because there was only one way in and out of the property, they meticulously analyzed the vehicles passing through the gates around the time of the shooting. They identified a white or silver Infiniti sedan that exited the complex at a high rate of speed shortly before the 911 call was placed. As the investigators worked, a young woman approached the perimeter. She identified herself as C's girlfriend and explained that they had been staying at a nearby Stay Express hotel. She stated that C had woken up around 1 in the morning, dressed himself, and left without speaking to her. She did not know who he was planning to meet. The case took an unexpected turn when a patrol sergeant stopped a Toyota RAV for containing 3 individuals. One of the passengers, who had a jacket draped over his head, claimed he had been kidnapped and assaulted by the other 2 men. The 2 men were friends of C. They had accused the passenger of setting C up to be killed. Under questioning, the kidnapped victim revealed that on the night of the shooting, C had visited his apartment and stated he was planning to rob a local individual. He provided the name of the target, a known local drug dealer who drove a white 2010 Infiniti G37. The detectives realized that the driver of the white Infiniti, whom C had intended to rob, was likely the individual who had fled the scene. They identified the owner of the vehicle and contacted his girlfriend. She agreed to cooperate and brought her child to the city hall to speak with Detective Sanders. She confirmed that her boyfriend drove a white Infiniti and that he had arrived at her home early on the morning of the shooting, appearing normal but leaving shortly thereafter. At the detective's request, she called him on speakerphone. Detective Sanders spoke to him, explaining that his name had arisen in connection with an investigation and asking him to come to the station to clarify matters. The young man agreed to arrive within the hour. However, before he could arrive voluntarily, a license plate reader flagged his vehicle in the area. Patrol officers conducted a felony traffic stop, detaining him and towing his vehicle to the police warehouse. The young man was upset, pointing out that he had been on his way to speak with the detectives when he was stopped. Detective Sanders, seeking to build rapport, removed his handcuffs and explained that they needed to understand his version of what had transpired in the parking lot. The suspect declined to make a statement without an attorney, leaving the detectives to rely on physical evidence. They obtained a search warrant for the Infiniti. Although the interior appeared clean to the naked eye, they applied a chemical agent designed to detect latent blood. The chemical illuminated a massive amount of blood that had soaked deep into the fabric of the front passenger seat beneath the surface cleaning. They also discovered a bullet hole in the interior of the driver's side door. Confronted with the reality of the physical evidence, the driver chose to re-engage with the detectives and provide his account of the evening. He explained that C had contacted him to arrange a meeting at a local restaurant. When C entered the front passenger seat of his vehicle, he directed him to drive to the apartment complex on Rolling Fork Road. Once inside the dark parking lot, C produced a handgun and announced a robbery. The driver, fearing for his life, fought back. A violent struggle ensued inside the moving vehicle as the driver attempted to control C's wrist and steer the car. During the physical altercation, the firearm discharged twice. According to the driver, C cried out that he had shot himself. The driver managed to break the gun free from C's grasp. C fled from the vehicle, eventually collapsing under the stairwell where he succumbed to his injuries. The driver, panicked and terrified, drove away, discarded the firearm near the complex and spent the following day cleaning the blood from his vehicle in an attempt to hide the incident. Detective Sanders and his team evaluated the statement against the physical evidence, the trajectory of the bullet hole in the door, and the location of the blood aligned with a struggle over a firearm held by a passenger. The wound, too, C's inner thigh was consistent with an accidental discharge during a close-quarters struggle. Recognizing that the driver had acted in self-defense during an armed robbery, the detectives determined that a murder charge was not appropriate. However, because the driver had cleaned the vehicle, fled the scene, and discarded the weapon rather than contacting the police, he was charged with misprision of a felony for concealing a crime. As the final hours of the initial 48-hour period expired, Detective Sanders reflected on the tragic outcome. A young father had lost his life due to a poor decision to commit a robbery, and another young man's life was permanently altered by the trauma of the defense and the subsequent legal consequences. Across every investigation, the search for truth revealed the complex realities of human nature, from the quiet parks of Georgia to the charred ruins of Oklahoma and the rain-slicked streets of South Carolina. The work of the detectives remained a constant shield against chaos, bringing order to the aftermath of tragedy and ensuring that the stories of those who were lost were told with dignity and truth. The shadows of the late afternoon stretched long and thin across the gravel driveways of the west side of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The air carried the crisp, dry chill of late winter, whispering through the dry grass of neglected lawns and the skeletal branches of oak trees. It was a quiet neighborhood, the sort of place where people generally kept to themselves and where the echoes of past events lingered long after the sirens had faded into the distance. Inside the Municipal Dispatch Center, the quiet hum of electronics was interrupted by an incoming call to the 911 emergency line. The dispatcher answered with a standard, professional inquiry, asking if the caller required police assistance or medical aid. The voice on the other end of the line was breathless, strained by a mixture of confusion and sudden horror. The caller explained that she had been searching for her lost cat collar in a neighbor's backyard when she stumbled upon something buried in the debris of a burned-out structure. It was not discarded trash or the remains of an animal. She had found the unmistakable bones of a human body. When the dispatcher requested the location, the caller provided the intersection of South 54th West Avenue and West Goldman Street. She noted that the property featured a detached garage that had burned to the ground several months prior. Within minutes, patrol officers arrived at the scene, their boots crunching on the charred timber and broken glass that littered the yard. They navigated the perimeter of the black ruins, their flashlights cutting through the gathering dusk. One officer paused, crouching low near the edge of the collapsed roof. He pointed his light toward a pale, curved object partially buried under a pile of soot and half-melted plastic. It was a human jawbone. The officers immediately realized the gravity of the situation, secured the perimeter with yellow crime scene tape, and requested the assistance of the homicide unit. For the homicide detectives of the Tulsa Police Department, the discovery of human remains after such a significant passage of time presented an immediate and difficult challenge. In the world of criminal investigation, the likelihood of solving a homicide is statistically reduced by half if a solid lead is not developed within the first 48 hours of discovery. In this case, the clock was already ticking, and the starting point was a set of bones buried beneath 5 months of ash and neglect. Detective Kennedy and Detective Ward arrived at the scene as the last light of day disappeared from the horizon. They stood at the edge of the debris, conferring with the patrol officers. The fire department had responded to a massive blaze at this detached garage 5 months earlier, in the middle of September, because the structure had been filled to the ceiling with discarded belongings and household debris. The firefighters had focused their efforts on extinguishing the flames and preventing the fire from spreading to the main house. No one had realized that a human being had been trapped inside the inferno. To assist with the delicate task of recovering the remains, the detectives called upon Dr. Angela Berg, a respected forensic anthropologist. Dr. Berg arrived with her equipment, stepping carefully into the ruins. She knelt beside the structural timbers, examining the orientation of the skeleton. She noted that the legs were visible near the edge, but the skull was tucked deeply beneath a collapsed portion of the wall. She pointed out clear signs of trauma to the bone structure, noting distinct fractures that suggested blunt force or the impact of a high-velocity projectile rather than simple heat damage from the fire. There appeared to be a primary impact site and a secondary radiating fracture. Dr. Berg explained that the position of the body suggested it had been present in the garage before the fire began, and the way the head was positioned seemed to indicate that it had been deliberately placed or concealed. Because of the sheer volume of debris, the firefighters would have had no way of seeing the victim during their initial response. She decided that a proper scientific excavation would have to wait until the morning light to ensure that no microevidence or small bone fragments were lost in the darkness. While the forensic team prepared for the next day's work, the detectives began the vital task of identifying the property owner. A search of the county property records revealed the name and phone number of the man who owned the residence. The neighbor who had discovered the remains explained that she had spoken to the homeowner just hours earlier, asking for permission to search his backyard for her missing cat collar. He had granted permission, but had left the property immediately afterward. Detective Ross Hall attempted to contact the homeowner by telephone, hoping he would return to cooperate with the investigation. The homeowner, however, was evasive. He claimed he was out of town and then claimed he was out of the state entirely, flatly refusing to return to the property. This sudden departure and refusal to meet raised immediate red flags for the investigators. Detectives Kennedy and Ward interviewed the neighbor at her home. She confirmed that the homeowner had lived there for a long time, kept to himself, and rarely interacted with others. She noted that the neighborhood was typically quiet, with no history of loud disturbances or gunshots. Returning to the police headquarters, Detective Kennedy placed a direct phone. A call to the homeowner. The man's tone was defensive and highly unusual. When Detective Kennedy asked if he would be willing to meet at the detective division to discuss an ongoing investigation at his house, the man refused, stating that he was uncomfortable meeting there because it felt like the police would have a home field advantage. When Detective Kennedy informed him that a body had been discovered in his backyard, the homeowner made a sudden, revealing statement. He asked if the body could be that of Steve Wilkins. He explained that Steve had been living in the garage apartment prior to the fire and had not been seen since the night of the incident. Though he agreed to receive the address of the police station via text message, his overall demeanor was characterized by the detectives as highly suspicious. Through background checks, the detectives learned that 55-year-old Stephen Wilkins was a father of 4 children with siblings who cared for him deeply. He had spent his youth moving between different locations, including Georgia and Germany, while his father served in the military. He had lived in Tulsa for more than 20 years, working as a baker and dedicating his spare time to volunteering with a local community support group known as Neighbors. Along the line, 3 years prior, after his family moved out, he had fallen on hard times and had been forced to give up his home. It was then that the suspicious homeowner had offered to let him stay in the detached garage. When the homeowner finally arrived at the detective division for an interview, he painted a portrait of Steve as an educated, polite man who enjoyed reading and writing poetry. He claimed that on the night of the fire, which occurred on a Wednesday in mid-September, neighbors had awoken him in the early hours of the morning to alert him to the flames. He asserted that he had last seen Steve at approximately 6 o'clock the previous evening. Significantly, he mentioned that 2 unidentified males had visited Steve that afternoon, and that Steve had indicated they were unhappy with him. When asked why he had never reported his friend and tenant missing over the course of 5 months, or why he had not shared this highly suspicious detail with the fire investigators, the homeowner offered only weak excuses, claiming he simply assumed Steve had run away to escape whatever trouble those men represented. The following morning, Dr. Berg and the crime scene technicians began the painstaking process of sifting through the ash and dirt in the backyard. Their diligence paid off when they recovered a heavily corroded 9mm shell casing from the debris. A preliminary examination of the skull revealed a distinct gunshot entrance wound at the base of the skull. The case was now officially a homicide investigation. While the medical examiner's office worked to secure a positive identification, Patrol Officer Darren Shipley brought a woman to the detective division who claimed to have first-hand knowledge of the crime. Though she was suffering from a fever, her desire to see justice served compelled her to speak. She revealed that a rumor had been circulating on the west side of Tulsa just days before the fire. The rumor suggested that Steve Wilkins had drugged the ex-girlfriend of A local man named Tad Kleiner, who is commonly known by the street name Taboo. According to the witness, an enraged Tad Kleiner had gone to the property on the night of the fire, accompanied by a man named Michael Brummett Jr., who went by the name Mikey, and another associate. She stated that Tad had later bragged in her presence about beating Steve severely, describing the assault in graphic detail. She further asserted that Michael Brummett had been brought in to clean up the blood and had subsequently set the garage on fire to destroy the evidence. She added that Michael was currently serving a 5-year prison sentence on unrelated weapons charges. A search of criminal databases confirmed the identities of the suspects. 36-year-old Tad Kleiner was a longtime resident of the West Side with a history of convictions for drug possession, illegal firearms, and resisting arrest. 39-year-old Michael Brummett also had a criminal record involving burglary and drug offenses. When arrested months earlier, Michael had been in possession of a 9mm handgun, raising the possibility that his weapon was the one used in the murder of Steve Wilkins. To corroborate the woman's account, detectives brought her boyfriend from the county jail to the interview room. He provided crucial details confirming the narrative of the beating and identifying a third participant, a 26-year-old man from Sperry, Oklahoma, named Devin Scrivener, who had no prior criminal record. The witness in jail noted that Devin had been bleeding heavily from his hand on the night of the murder. Shortly thereafter, the medical examiner's office confirmed the positive identification of the remains as those of Stephen Wilkins through a comparison of medical radiology records. Armed with this official identification and the detailed statements of the witnesses, the detectives began a search for Devin Scrivener, believing him to be the most vulnerable link in the conspiracy. After a brief search of the West Side, detectives located Devin Scrivener at his girlfriend's residence and brought him in for questioning. Confronted with the fact that several people were already talking to the police, Devin's composure cracked. He admitted that Tad Kleiner had recruited him and Michael Brummett to go to the property to confront Steve over the rumors. He described how Tad had aggressively confronted Steve and immediately initiated a violent assault, ignoring Devin's pleas to leave the older man alone. Devin then stated that as they were preparing to leave, Michael Brummett drew a handgun and fired a single shot, causing Devin to flee in terror. When pressed about the injury to his own hand, Devin admitted that he had stabbed Steve twice during the struggle, claiming the victim had lunged toward him. At the conclusion of the interview, Devin was placed under arrest and charged with first-degree murder. 2 days later, the warrants team located Tad Kleiner and took him into custody. During his interrogation, Tad was highly defensive, denying any involvement in murder. He did, however, admit that he had gone to the property to threaten Steve, warning him to stay away from local women. Despite his denials of physical violence, his admissions, and the consistent statements of the other co-defendants provided ample probable cause. Tad Kleiner and Michael Brummett were both charged with first-degree murder. In an effort to understand the root cause of this senseless violence, Detective Kennedy located Tad's ex-girlfriend when shown a photograph of Stephen Wilkins. The young woman was visibly confused. She stated unequivocally that she had never seen the man before in her life, had never been drugged, and had never been assaulted by him. The rumor that had cost Stephen Wilkins his life was entirely false. It was a tragic demonstration of how baseless gossip and a desire for vigilante justice could lead to the brutal murder of an innocent volunteer, leaving a family devastated and 3 young men facing lifetimes behind bars. In the city of North Charleston, South Carolina, a different kind of tragedy was unfolding in the darkness of the early morning hours. At approximately 1 o'clock, a frantic resident of Rolling Fork Road called 911 to report that an unknown individual was desperately pounding on her doors and windows, screaming for help. Patrol officers arrived at the apartment complex within minutes, navigating the dark parking lot. Underneath a concrete stairwell on the first floor, they discovered a young man lying in a pool of blood. He had suffered a single, devastating gunshot wound to his upper inner thigh. Despite the rapid response of medical personnel, the loss of blood from what appeared to be a severed femoral artery was too severe, and the young man was pronounced dead at the scene. Detective Reams and his team took charge of the investigation. They began by documenting a prominent trail of blood that wound past several trash dumpsters and led to a metal guardrail near the edge of the parking lot. On the ground near the blood trail, crime scene technicians recovered a 9mm handgun magazine, but no firearm was found in the immediate vicinity. They also recovered a locked cell phone, which they believed belonged to the victim. While the forensics team worked, Detective Reams spoke with the residents who had made the emergency call. They had not heard any gunshots, suggesting the shooting might have occurred inside a vehicle. The resident provided security camera footage from her doorstep, which showed the victim stumbling toward her door at exactly 1 o'clock in the morning, clearly injured but with no one pursuing him. The detectives noted a city-managed security camera mounted on a nearby utility pole near the entrance of the complex. This particular camera system, managed by a security company, monitored the single entrance and exit of the property. Detective Reams contacted the security company and arranged to meet a representative at 8 o'clock that morning to retrieve the footage. Meanwhile, the county coroner was able to identify the victim through fingerprint records as 21-year-old Aurelius Siren Nelson Jr., affectionately known to his friends and family as C. He was a native of James Island and the father of a young son. As the detectives were leaving the apartment complex, they were approached by a young woman who identified herself as the victim's girlfriend. She explained that she and Aurelius had been staying at a nearby hotel. She stated that he had woken up around 1 o'clock in the morning, dressed silently, and walked out of the room without saying a word. She had no idea where he was going or whom he was planning to meet. Back at the police department, investigators reviewed the retrieved security. Footage from the entrance of the apartment complex. At approximately 5 minutes before the shooting, a white or silver Infiniti sedan was seen driving slowly into the complex and then exiting at a high rate of speed just minutes later. The investigation took a dramatic turn 12 hours later when a patrol sergeant attempted to stop a Toyota RAV4. As the officer turned around, the vehicle pulled over and 2 men fled into the darkness on foot. Inside the vehicle, officers found a third man with a jacket draped over his head, and the interior of the car was covered in blood. The man explained that he had been kidnapped and assaulted by the 2 fleeing individuals who were close friends of the deceased Aurelius. He claimed they had accused him of setting Aurelius up to be killed. The kidnapping victim revealed that on the night of the incident, Aurelius had visited his apartment, which was adjacent to the crime scene, and had stated that he was planning to commit a robbery, commonly referred to as a lick. The target of the robbery was a local drug dealer who drove a white Infiniti G37. Using this information, the investigators identified the owner of the white Infiniti. They located his phone records and discovered that he and the victim had been exchanging messages for approximately 30 minutes leading up to the shooting.